Awesome.
So please introduce yourself, Eric, and then take the stage.
Okay. All right. So if you haven't heard of me, my name is Eric Espinosa. Before Coconut VA, I was known for Venture Validator. We were a market research firm for startups. And I had a lot of cash flow problems in the beginning. I started the business in college, from scratch, didn't raise any money at first. And so being a professor at BYU, I had access to a lot of interns, and I was really glad to have the great talent that you can get from interns, but it was always a revolving door. And so I struggled to staff my agency. And so that's where I kind of turned to virtual assistants. And a couple of years later, I've gone down this whole rabbit hole, and I've always been asked this number one question, which is the subject of today's webinar: what roles can a virtual assistant do? So since then, we've hired many virtual assistants for our own businesses. We actually have a couple here on the call today. I got Judy, my account executive, Donna, my executive assistant. Hannah actually works for the Summit Ventures team, and she was actually my first virtual assistant years ago. So she's an amazing VA. So really, I kind of went down this rabbit hole of, can you build out an entire organization staffed from virtual assistants? And kind of flash forward this last year, I actually, as we were building an agency, I went out to the Philippines and I lived a month in the virtual assistant's shoes on VA pay, working US hours, doing everything that they do so that we could understand and make the best win-win business model that encourages virtual assistants to stay for a long time and allows business owners to get the maximum amount of value. So because of this, we've gone viral on TikTok. We have over 20,000 followers in the Philippines. We have literally pick of the top talent as an agency standard goes, because we have such a good win-win model. And through that, we've become a fairly large staffing firm quite quickly, especially in Utah. So I think kind of first question is, what is a virtual assistant? Or you might hear people say a VA. Really, it's a remote worker. It's someone who works online, virtually. It's a term that I'm not a huge fan of, just because of the limiting connotation that it has on it. But really, a virtual assistant can be from anywhere. They can even be from the US. And as we've kind of evolved, people are thinking, oh, is it AI? Is it like an Amazon Alexa? Really, the best term would be a remote worker. But I feel like in the US, we do have maybe a little bit of a limiting connotation on that. Just know that in the Philippines and other places, that certainly isn't a derogatory name for the role. It's just called the VA industry. So as far as a virtual assistant, they can do many, many roles. They can come from any country. We typically hire from the Philippines specifically because I think it's the best value. And of course, I'm quite biased, but they were a US territory, so they have very good US English. All of the customer service centers for Wells Fargo, Chase, Citibank are all located there. So you have this huge industry creating really good talent that knows US working culture. And then they usually will transition into some type of a virtual assistant role and then find their way to the top of our applications and be a Coconut VA. So really, we're talking about the best of the best talent. Where can they fit into your organization? I think the best way would be actually showing you some of our clients, what they're using them for. And by the end of this, I think it'll really broaden your mind, and that limiting name of a virtual assistant will be definitely changed. So first off, lead generation, that's one of the more basic types of jobs that are getting outsourced. So it can be anything from appointment setting to on the phone calls, prospect research, list building. But the thing that you're going to realize is that it's not like you have to have 40 hours of list building or 40 hours of this one thing. They're very versatile. We hire people who have multiple skill sets. So for example, Yada Golf, they're having their VA do trade show research. Sometimes she's creating mailers. finding out where's the best supplier for XYZ material. Really a lot of general admin stuff is being added in there. Tanner Scott with Ranksy, you might know him. His VA does SEO, but also link building and cold emailing. So it's really typically for lead gen, you'll have a set amount of hours, maybe 10 to 15, where it's dedicated lead gen that you want them doing. But then after that, it's just the stuff that comes up in a business, in a startup, that you're having other people help you with. Customer success is also really, really good to outsource to the Philippines. And again, that's because you have all of these customer support remote teams that have been in the Philippines for the last couple of decades, because they have very good US English, but also they have US logic. And I don't say that lightly. I've traveled to many countries all over the world, and I will always complain that America has a certain logic about it, where when problems happen, the customer is right. And you think of things in a way to, they're good at problem solving. There has been nowhere that I found that matched in my travels than in the Philippines. I saw problems happening when I was at the store and this and that, and they just logically, this is how we do it to solve the problem, very much matching the US. So they make really good customer success virtual assistants. But it's not really just limited to on the phone support, email support. I've got my customer success gals are also attending sales calls. So they'll attend and actually take down notes in those calls. They'll do the follow-up emails. They'll do the client billing. And then I even have them doing hiring and a lot more tasks than just the typical chatbot type things. And then I think another really big one is just general admin. Actually, Hannah, do you want to share what you do, all the things that you do? I don't know if she's live anymore. Oh, she is.
Okay, some of the tasks I do at Summit Venture Studio, I build landing pages, I design posters for campaigns that they launch. I also help with newsletter content research, and I also help with the design of the newsletter headers and images. I manage some of our social media accounts, and I also regularly post on our YouTube channels. And I also manage our Seamless account. So whenever they need, whenever anyone needs any contacts, they go to me to ask for help. Yeah, when our portfolio companies need a website, I build and customize it to their liking.
So I got to tell a funny story about Hannah. We actually hired Hannah, I think it was her second job. She was just a little out of high school, and she could learn anything. We would give her a course on YouTube or maybe Udemy, and she would learn this new skill, and then she would do really well at it. And we kept adding things. We kept running out of things to teach her. And one of the things I had her do was source a product that I thought I might knock off. It was this bath bean was what it was called. It was this little silicone pillow that you would stick into a bathtub. And so for girls that were too short to put their feet on the end of the bathtub, they would slide in the bathtub, which is a minor annoyance. And so I found this product. They were selling like $90. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so easy. I could source that for way less and sell it for 30 and make a killing. And so I didn't have the time though to go do all the research. I gave Hannah my access to my tangible e-commerce school educational content. I told her, hey, I want you to learn about outsourcing, and I want you to go get some quotes from some manufacturers. A couple hours goes by, she read all the things that she needed to do. She reached out to some suppliers. They said, hey, we need some CAD designs. She said, Eric, I need some CAD designs. I'm looking for some people on Fiverr. And within the day, she had that mock-up built out in Fiverr with some CAD designer, but she had some problems. And so here I am looking at my end of day messages, and I see this chain go through. And the first thing was, Eric, I need to know what the diameter of the suction cups are. And then never mind, I reached out to the competitor on Instagram, and they've told me that the diameter is 3 inches. hey, Eric, I need to know what the arc of the suction cup is. Never mind, they've been working with me and they've given me a sketch diagram of it. And so that's just the level of autonomy that you can have in someone. I told Hannah, I said, Hannah, you were brilliant for this. We probably should just stick to the public data, but I absolutely love the work ethic there. So general admins literally can do anything that you would have, I would say like top intern from BYU, the U, that's what they can do. Anything you're willing to train them on, they're able to grasp. Social media design, or social media and graphic design is also another popular one. And so we've got lots of graphic designers. My own social media manager, she runs our TikToks, does web design, graphic design, email campaigns, etc. And then we have some more custom roles. Judy, you're on the call. Do you want to share what you do?
Sure, of course. Hey, everyone. Great to meet you all. My name is Judy. I'm an account executive at Coconut VA. So what I do is I lead strategy or sales calls. I provide client account support via Zoom. I follow up with clients. I work with our hiring managers to select the best VAs for our clients. Basically anything that I can do to support Eric, our CEO. That's what I do.
So then we have another couple. Every hire that we do is custom. And you see both the founder and you see the virtual assistant's face on here because it's the fit between them. It doesn't matter if they have the skills if they don't have the attitude. If they have the attitude and if they have the base aptitude, they really can grow into any role. And I think that we've really seen that with Taylor and what you've been able to do with Chris. Do you want to maybe explain a little bit what Chris is doing?
Yeah, so you've got a couple of bullets there, which are good, but he does a lot more than that as well. He came in having been trained on as a facilitator in 4 disciplines of execution. It's kind of an execution principle-based project management type thing. So he has helped us kind of build that out in our operations. He's managed, I think, 6 or 7 student projects where we had college students doing their capstone project with us, and he just managed and worked with the students each week in their weekly meetings. A lot of project management, but he's also fantastic on the phone and has spent a lot of time doing that work. So he's doing a lot of validation and outreach as well to potential customers and just kind of validating our new products.
So you'll see that they have a lot of wide experience that's relevant to their role, but where you get the most value is if you add more training in there. So they've done training with him in 4 disciplines of execution. Phil Anderson with Parent Playbook, they've trained a Scrum Master. He's now generating a lot of the developer storyboards that are happening as they're building their app. And so if you find someone with a really good wide skill set that has the aptitude and the attitude, and then you give them all the benefits and good pay, you can really raise them to somebody who is much more valuable than you could ever afford in the States. I think this is the last one here. We have executive assistants. I'll actually let Donna take over on this one.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Glad to be able to chat with Chad and John and Dallin earlier, and glad to meet everybody. So yeah, I am Donna. I am Eric's executive assistant, and I also help out in the operation side for Coconut VA. As an executive assistant, I make sure Eric has 0 emails in his inbox every day. So I do that by categorizing his emails into different buckets. And then we do what we call like a daily sweep. So we basically just go over, what actionable emails have come through the day. And then we talk about like messages that he needs to prioritize and then the tasks that he needs to do for the day. And then for the operation side, I help manage the internal team and then the projects in the different departments. I also help with process improvement and yeah, overall operations.
Awesome. So executive assistants are like, you want to have a superpower, get a virtual assistant that can take over some of these executive assistant roles. I don't have to worry if there's some notification in my inbox that I haven't looked at, because I know that Donna's, if it triggers a certain thing where it's really important, Donna's going to reach out to me. I hop on calls. She's running the agenda with my other team members. She's running the project management on that. Anytime there's an actual to-do item, she's putting that into the project management system, and she's following up to make sure those things are done. So it really puts me in the visionary role. And as she's taking care of operations and overseeing that, it just helps you maximize what you're good at, which is really helpful for growth. So all in all, I hope this kind of opens your mind a little bit more to the types of things that VAs can do. And as far as cost savings, let me show you this. So this is our team right now. We have myself, CEO, Tyler, COO, and Donna's really kind of the half of both of us. We've actually done personality tests to make sure that she can do what Tyler does and what I do, and it works wonderfully. Under that, we have our funnel. So we have our appointment setters, lead gen, social media, and then we have an account executive for sales, and then we have our customer success and human resources. So this team, taking out the founders, if I were to hire this team in the States, it would cost $465,000 a year. But hiring for the Philippines, I get this level of talent, the same team, the same output for $220,000. So not only are you saving half on your employment costs, but I'm able to provide healthcare, medical, paternity. I actually have 3 of my VAs are going to be on maternity leave in the next 2 months, which is a little bit scary for me. But we've already budgeted things out, and they already have a month paid leave if they need it, and then another month of unpaid if they need it. So it allows you to retain people because you're able to treat them so well, while still coming in well under the cost of what it would take in the States to do this. So kind of going on from there, I do want to give a couple of tips on the easier roles and the more difficult roles to hire for. So easy roles are defined roles, things that are repeatable, things that you've done before yourself. And by easier, I mean that we can usually source those in about 200 applicants, or if you go to do it yourself, it would probably take about 200 applicants to find that best person. The more difficult roles would be the open ones where there's not as much structure. They need a lot more autonomy, especially something in sales or something in management. But more difficult certainly does not mean possible. It just means that you need to go through a lot more applicants. So probably about 1,000 applicants. And as far as price wise, we're talking anywhere from $10 to $16 an hour is typically what virtual assistants charge going through Coconut VA. So no matter what role, you want to find the best person who has that skill set and then has the aptitude to grow into higher things. Half of what you need to know is the virtual assistant going to be able to perform this role? The other half of what you need to know is the founder ready to actually delegate for this role? And so we've actually broken up to 2 categories. When is the founder ready and when are they not? And really it comes down to product market fit. If you have product market fit, you're likely ready. If you're not having product market fit, it wouldn't be a good time to outsource, because you would hire based on all these skills and all these aptitudes for them to fit in this part of your business model. And in 30 days, your business model is going to change as you pivot to find product market fit. And now all that training that you did is useless because you need somebody else in there. So we really found that it's best they have product market fit. And then you don't need a full 20 hours of tasks for them to do quite yet, but you do need to have 10 to 15 where you say, yep, I know these are steady tasks. Because if you have that much, another 10 hours is just going to pop up through the week. But something that we implement for our virtual assistants is actually a 20-hour minimum requirement from founders. Because if not, what's happening is if they're having 10 hours, they're probably having 2 to 4 different jobs, different employers, and they're not able to be dedicated to any person. They're not loyal to any one person. And it's more of a pain than it's actually worth to outsource something like that. So the other thing is just making sure that you have the budget for it. I mean, so typically you're going to need a minimum of an $800 budget for 20 hours a week for a $10 an hour VA. But you don't really want to cut it close where that's all you can afford, because we've seen some of our startup clients that they might even have product market fit, but they haven't maybe proven out their lead gen channel. And if you're hiring a virtual assistant and you're on the edge of whether or not you're going to be able to afford that person, what's going to happen is you're only going to give them tasks that you can get an ROI on quickly. And you probably don't have enough of those tasks, which means you're not actually going to be able to utilize them. And you're not wanting to give them the tasks that take 3 months to get an ROI because you're not sure if you're actually going to have them for 3 months. So really it comes best when you have a little bit of cushion in your budget. Just from mindset more than anything, you start delegating and you start freeing up your time so that you're able to do more high value tasks. And so all in all, outsourcing works for, the solo founder all the way up to a large Fortune 500 company, but the timing on that, just making sure that they're having the tasks that are going to keep them busy is quite important. Okay, and then the last section I just want to go over is a couple of management tips. So this is one that my co-founder Tyler lives by. You should never be busy when your VAs aren't. So if you're struggling to come up with tasks, ask yourself, what am I doing right now and how can I outsource this to a virtual assistant? A lot of times you don't want to outsource something because it's always easier to do it one more time yourself than it is to teach somebody else. But just calculate how many times you're gonna have to do that over the next couple of months, and very easily you see an ROI. And so just go ahead and outsource. And I always tell people, go do your task one more time yourself, because it's always easier to do it yourself. Looking forward and saying, how do I outsource this thing? How do I write up all the documentation for it? Sounds scary. Just go do it one more time, then look backwards and say, oh, what did I do? Make a summary of those points. And now you have the basis for your training. Have your virtual assistant do it the next time, show you it, and you say, oh, I guess I wrote the instructions bad. Here's 2 other things I would add. And by about 2 or 3 times, you've really well-rounded it and you've never have to take on that task again. The second thing is always have a task backlog and an upskill list. So our virtual assistants work quite quickly, and that can be a challenge to keep them busy. And so it's probably wise to have in your project management tool a number of tasks that are of low to medium priority that have the instructions. And I like to say those in Loom. It's just a video software that allows me to create a video. And when they don't have things that are due this week, they can pop into that backlog and start doing these tasks that don't need management, and so that you're keeping them productive all the time. And then the other thing is give them some type of list of skills that you want them to learn. Ask them what they want to learn. Maybe they want to learn video editing, or maybe you could really have use if they could be better at Canva graphic design. Go have them take a YouTube course on that and have these courses in that backlog so that you're constantly upskilling them and they're able to provide more value to the company. Open communication decreases ghosting. So I will say the one thing about the Philippines that you need to very much be cognizant of is that virtual assistants, culturally, if they're a bit shyer, on the shyer side. And if you overload a virtual assistant and they feel stuck, they feel like they can't perform well for you, they might have a tendency to clam up and just get in the circle of just worrying about they're not going to hit the deadline, they don't know how to do this thing. And if you don't have open communication with them, they're not going to come to you and you're not going to be able to solve those problems. It's possible that they might just leave you completely. You'll never hear from them again because they've made a mistake and they can't face you on that mistake. So culturally, that's something you have to be aware of, and something that we work a lot with our VAs in internally, and helping them know that it's okay if you make mistakes. It's okay if you can't hit deadlines, just open communication. And really it takes them making their first mistake and you giving them very positive reinforcement on your culture, that it really breaks them from maybe some of the fear mindset that they've had in some of these other companies that they worked with locally that are a lot more strict and aren't as fun to work for. Okay, and then our golden rule for entrepreneurs is that you should never feel frustrated with your virtual assistant. Frustration is a description for something when you've try to explain something to your virtual assistant 3 times and they're still not having any changes, that's a sign that something's wrong. So we usually tell clients that if you feel frustrated, then either there's miscommunication happening or you have the wrong virtual assistant. So anytime those things happen, you need to be on that because it never gets better unless something changes. So opening that communication, deciding, should we get a different virtual assistant or should we put this virtual assistant somewhere else that makes more sense? Okay, and then the last thing is don't be afraid to change typical business processes to fit remote virtual assistants. So I've got a sales process that is not as normal from a normal account executive. Actually, if anyone's curious, you should go on a sales call with Judy, my account executive, and just watch the call. You'll actually notice that I've kind of done a workaround. I used to be a bottleneck in the business, helping founders, and Judy is very capable of handling clients, actually better than myself. But there's some trust that needs to happen with when people hop on calls. And so I actually have a video that I pop up on the screen and help entrepreneurs understand what we're about, who's a good fit client, who's not. And we actually have a little bit of a different sales process. So don't be afraid to, I mean, we're in 2022, everyone works remote. You can do things that are different to fit VAs in there where traditionally they might not fit so well. So yeah, those are my management tips. I'll open up for Q&A in a second. Just a little bit about Coconut VA. If you do want to hire through us, our whole goal is to help you vacation laptopless. And what that entails is having your virtual assistants doing the operations so that you can focus on the strategy. And the measure of success is, can you go on vacation without having to put a fire out while you're on that vacation? So we very much focus on win-win. Win-win for the entrepreneurs. We don't have any type of hiring fee. We don't have any long-term contract. We do all of the hiring. We'll find 200 virtual assistants that would apply for your role. We'll go through and narrow it down to the top 20. We'll interview those. And then all you have to worry about is an email that comes to your inbox with our top 3 suggestions, their names, their hourly rates, and then what their intro video. You get to watch those 3 60-second intro videos and pick who you want to move forward to with an interview. And then we'll hop on that interview with you. We'll be monitoring and asking some questions, and we'll give you our recommendation if you should go forward with them for a trial or not. So if you do want to go through a trial, it's just $250 flat rate for 20 hours of work. And so we do the legal, the payroll, and afterwards we provide all the benefits. And that's the biggest thing that I would say makes us a differentiator, is the benefits and the culture. So for entrepreneurs, it's all about decreasing the risk. For virtual assistants, it's all about increasing stability. So having top-notch pay, maternity, medical, dental, vision, PTO, paid holidays, and then we even have them in a profit sharing model where once the founders have made a 10x ROI, 50% of our profits go straight back to the VAs. So if you do everything where it fits win-win, then it doesn't matter what short-term problems happen. We're here to help you out. That might mean flying a VA if there's a storm to a different city, putting them in co-working spaces, housing them. That might mean giving you a refund on a bad experience that happened. Really, if you align people's incentives, that's how you get the best long-term relationships. And we're big fans of that because you just get to be yourself and build a business based on ethics, and everyone ends up winning in the long run. So that's all I have for you guys. I guess I'll turn it back over to you, Taylor.
Thanks, Eric. I've been trying to handle some questions in the chat just based on our experience, but it might be good to just open it up to Q&A so that there's an actual expert answering the questions. Does anybody have any questions for Eric?
I see one is time zones that they work. They can work any time zone that you need them to work. Most, I would say 95% of our virtual assistants work in US time zones. It sounds difficult. I've done it myself. It's not too difficult during the week. The only difficulty I'd say is during the weekend, because usually you'll revert back to go be with your family. But no, it's something that they've been used to for probably the last 5 years on average for our VAs.
I had a question.
Mhm.
How does it track hours, things like that? Is it just more of you say, hey, I need about 15 hours a week or 30 hours a week or whatever it is, and you provide tasks, but how is that tracked, or what does that look like? Especially when maybe it's more of like, you just need responsive help and yeah, I guess just more responsive help.
So that's a good point. We have our virtual assistants on a set schedule. So you need to pick the time of day that they're available, and they will always be available during those hours. As far as the tracking goes, they're sending end of day reports with what they did that day. And if you're looking for more custom extensive tracking, that certainly can be done. That does bring another point where a lot of roles can be done with a part-time virtual assistant. There are other roles that are better for you to wait until you're ready to hire full-time. So for example, an executive assistant or a customer service manager, those are probably ones that you'd want someone full-time, because what happens if their shift ends at 2 p.m., you get an email in and they're not in until 10 a.m. the next morning. Well, now you have 20 hours of non-responsiveness, and that really doesn't work. So it's not like a Fiverr where you have a number of hours that maybe they're using, you buy 80 hours for the month, maybe you're using 30 this week and 0 next week. It is stable and steady, and we find that that creates the best reliability from both the VA side and then also predictability from the entrepreneur side.
Thank you.
I guess I can go deeper into my question that Taylor answered already, was about social media and creating, and if it had like, so this is when you were saying like if you need them to educate themselves on a specific topic, because if you want more like industry specific postings or things like that, but also how much do they create, or do they edit? Like you did mention edit videos. I mean, like there's a lot of platforms and a lot of different ways of posting. So can you talk a little more about social media?
Yeah, it's a good point. So I think maybe this will help. This is kind of our chart that we bring people to and what they're thinking of. So if you're wanting someone just to run social media for you, where they may be creating some Canva graphic designs for you, it's probably going to be the grower VA, somewhere around 12 an hour. And that would be good for research. It'd be good for maybe creating some Canva posts. If you're wanting to be even more experienced, where maybe they're also creating videos, maybe they're actually even writing the posts, then we really need to step back and say, okay, is this for a company brand or is this for a personal brand? We have seen success with company brands, because company brands, they have their values written out, their mission statement out. You can look at what their past work is. And a lot of times it's just reminding people, hey, we're here, and pushing out content. Now, personal brands are much more difficult. It wouldn't be a wise choice to outsource, for example, your LinkedIn content, your posts that are coming from the actual entrepreneur, because it is quite difficult to outsource your own voice. So that's something that we wouldn't suggest a VA would thrive in that role. But as far as cross platforms, yeah, you need to look at, does this person get it or do they not? So like, if you're looking for someone who's doing social media, for example, Hannah can do social media. She gets it. She has the design eye. She can create Canva graphic designs. So because she has that base skill set, we said, well, she could probably create websites also. So we trained her on websites and she was able to grow into that. Well, she has that design eye. So now we can say, okay, let's actually have you create some videos, and here's the exact style of video that I want you to create. Here's what the text kind of looks like. Here's the background, all these things. So she was able to look at that and pattern that for what she was doing. So you're not trying to fit maybe an analytical role with more of the graphic design role. That's not a good fit. And so really it's, vomit all of the things that you have on your plate. And then we say, okay, what are the things that we can fit together that it makes sense for that person to have that base skill set that they already have or they can grow into? That's what you formulate into the job description. And then that's what you take forward and go into the hiring process with.
Just adding to that, Eric, I think, and Hannah, you're getting called out a lot on this call, but I think just because you're a great example. So you'll notice when you go back to the Midday Connect website and see all of the videos of the recordings of the Midday Connect, you'll see where the professionality of the video just looks start. And that's when Hannah took it over from me, and she's like, oh, nice job, Taylor, pats me on the head and is like, hey, you need to have a like consistent look for all the videos and all of that. Like, she's been able to do all of that. But in addition to that, she's taken all of the transcripts of our conversations at the Midday Connect and has gone through those and written articles based on the presentations. So she'll take the transcripts and like piece those together and put an article that we can post on LinkedIn, or pull out like one-liners that are just posts that we can kind of review and say, yeah, that's what I want to put on our personal LinkedIn or whatever like that. She's been amazing at doing that type of work. So it's been awesome.
So does that also overlap then with copywriting? Because that's great to hear.
Yes, a little bit. I mean, Hannah does that, a lot of that for us in terms of like, she'll put it together and then just say, okay, review this and like make edits. But she does that first pass, which is really difficult, and it's amazingly helpful.
Yeah, and I would add to that, Hannah has the base content, and she's taking that and making a really good draft. It's probably Taylor or Spencer who's going through and making that final draft. So when I had Hannah creating blogs for Coconut VA, I said, hey, go find 5 blog articles about this subject. She found 5, and I said, okay, now go create your own article based off that, summarize your own points. And so she did that. She had an awesome rough draft, and then my co-founder went through it in about 5 minutes, polished a couple of things that he would position differently, and then we made it live. And so it's a lot of the, I mean, you're setting them up with the tools, and you're probably giving them examples of what it looks like, and then they're able to create either a rough draft, and then depending on what task actually is, even the final draft. But I would draw the line on, hiring a virtual assistant to come in and completely strategize your entire marketing plan, and then go ahead and organize all those people. That's probably not going to happen. That wouldn't be a wise thing to do. It's more, you need to come with the vision, and then you need to come with the tools. And now you have somebody that can grow into that and can operate that continually.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Super interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, Eric, thanks for your time on this. This is awesome. I think one of the reasons that we wanted to have you come on here is just because we've had such a great experience with you, and it's fun to share that with everybody else in our network. And so really appreciate your time. If anybody has questions for Eric, please reach out to him. What's the best way to do that? Or reach out to his team members. Do you want to throw in the chat the best way to do that, Eric?
Yep. I mean, honestly, just go to our website and book a call, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Cool.
And I've had a few emails and requests in the chat for recording. So Hannah will post that for us. So you'll be able to see her amazing work. But yeah, really appreciate everybody, and thanks for spending some time with us.
Thanks.